Good. Yesterday, we learned in the Dvar Malchut, the words of royalty of the Rebbe from a speech that he spoke in 1991. And in this speech, he's talking about the month of Elul. That year, when the Rebbe was speaking, this week's Torah portion was read on the last Shabbat of the month of Av. The last Shabbat in the month of Av is called Shabbat Mevorchim. It gives a blessing to the coming month, the month which follows. And the month which follows Av is Elul. And so the Rebbe is talking about Elul. But this year, it happens to be that it's not exactly the same as it was back then when the Rebbe was saying one day, the calendar is one day different. That's the way it is in Judaism. The same day of the week doesn't, that's the way it is all the time, I think. In every, the same day of the week is not necessarily the same day of the month. So just like in America, the 4th of July doesn't always fall on Tuesday or Wednesday. Okay. So that's what it is here. So the Rebbe here is talking about Elul, even though that this, our coming month will be Elul, but it won't be next week like it was by the Rebbe. It'll be the week after that. But it doesn't make any difference. It's the same thing. So the month of Elul. So the Rebbe is explaining, what is the month of Elul? The month of Elul is a month of preparation. We're preparing for Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah is when we coronate God. We make God a king over ourselves and consequently a king over the whole world. So the world becomes the way the Creator wants it to be. So it says, and therefore the month of Elul is, the word Elul is composed of two words, Aleph Lamed, two concepts, Aleph Lamed and Vav Lamed. Aleph Lamed is the initials of Ani Ladodi, I go to God. And Vav Daled is Vidodi Li, and God reacts and comes back to me. Again, like we said so many times, this is the idea of God reacting to what we do, that we're very important to God. It says even more that in the month of Elul, in Chassidut, it's explained that the king, God, is in the field. God wants to arouse us, inspire us, comfort us, support us. That's the month of Elul. So it says God, in order for him to do this, to inspire us to be Ani Ladodi, that we should go to God. So God comes to us first. God, he begins the whole business. I mean, listen, God always begins the whole business. He creates us, right? Created the world. Okay, but as far as serving him goes, God has to give us a little bit of a sort of a free sample. So it says that in the month of Elul, the king is in the field. You can feel that God is more accessible, but he's less godly. You have this hint that God cares about us, but it's not so, impressive as it is when God is it's not so austere. This was I think it's something like you have the Queen of England. She passed away. But it used to be a big deal to see the Queen of England was a big deal. So there were people that lived in England. They never saw the Queen. My wife, for instance, she went to England just to travel around. She went with a friend, whatever. She went. The first day she was there, she saw the Queen. It's a big deal to see the Queen. It's a big deal. On the other hand, in Denmark, the Queen or the King, whoever it is, I don't know, he walks around the streets and you can see him in the fruit market and something like that. So nobody's really impressed by a king like that. So in the month of Elul, so to speak, God is in the fruit market. He's just sort of wandering around. But in Denmark or whatever it is, the king doesn't basically do anything. It's not anything really special. But by God, he creates the world. That's pretty good. So the creator of the world is available in the month of Elul. That's what he's saying. The king is in the field. Okay. Hosef and the Aranj, Inyan said that this is found in a hint also in the letters Elul. Ani Aleph begins with I. I. That's the Aleph. That's the first letter of the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. This is the first letter of the Aleph base. This is the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet. So this indicates on number one. This is the number one, the beginning. Beginning. Okay, so there's the beginning from above, that's God, but then there's the beginning from us from below to above, and that's like, child starts off in first grade, right? Kindergarten, that's the lowest. So that's the lowest. That's the beginning of all of the letters. She mispara is number one. From this, we come afterwards. From below, you can come from below. That's the lowest. You go up from what's simple into what's more complicated. Then you go to the letter Beit. That's double. Then afterwards, the Gimel, 3 times. Then after that, 4, etc. So this is increasing from below to above. But the letter Elul starts with the Aleph. That's like beginning from scratch, from nothing. On the other hand, the letter Aleph, this is the head of the 22 letters. This is the beginning of everything. It's not like the lowest. This is the source of everything, letter Aleph. From it comes all of the other things in the world, the Aleph, first letter of. So on one hand, Aleph is the lowest, right? Like a child that's in first grade. On the other hand, Aleph is the highest. That's like the beginning of all consciousness, the beginning of all. Ba'avodat Hashem, serving God. So this is hinting at what we have to do on our own. Ani ladodi. That we have to start off from Ani. Just with me. What are we sure of? I'm sure I exist. The lowest. And then afterwards, you elevate yourself from below to above, from what's simple until what's a little more complicated. And this is done. This is what the foundation of everything. Also, I'm shacham ilamayla. So that's one reason why the Rebbe said that religion in general is better than atheism. Religion is better than atheism. Why? Because atheism means that you think that all there is just me. So you're always staying in kindergarten. You're staying in the first level. You never raise up because you think there's nothing to be raised up to. All there is the world and there's me. That's all there is. That's atheism. But on the other hand, if a person is any type of religion, doesn't make any difference what it is, at least he knows there's something above him, that there's a bait, that there's a number 2, that he's not alone. He's not alone. You don't have it all. There's something you have to strive for, something that's above you. You're not the king, right? There's something that's more real than you are, so to speak. That's religion. So that's, let's say, step number 2. Step number 2, you can raise yourself up. Then you start to think about yourself. Listen, maybe what I'm worshiping is also being created. Maybe there's a bigger God than that. Maybe and eventually you come to understand maybe there's a creator for everything. Well, that's like step number 3. Then you start to think, well, maybe the creator cares about his creation. Maybe it's important in what I do. That's step number 4. And so it is higher and higher. Maybe the creator loves me. Maybe he wants me to love him. Maybe there's nothing except for the creator. That's the thing of Dodi Li. Then God reacts. To our love. It's not that we're just in this world, right, psychologically and whatever it is, what do they call it? No, that's not the word psychological. Subjectively. The whole world is subjective. There's these people that, the thing is just, we've talked about this before. There was a movie about it. What was it called? The Secret. What was that? Everything is in my mind. Nothing exists. Only my mind exists. I think from that comes this whole insane woke movement. If I think I'm a man, I'm a man. If I think I'm a woman, I'm a woman. If I'm a giraffe, I'm a giraffe. Right? Crazy ideas. Like crazy ideas. What's the crazy idea about? Because the person thinks all there is me. All there is me. Nothing is real. Right? That is a song. Nothing really matters. But life is but a dream. It's a big, huge, evil lie. It's an evil, terrible lie. I think communism is also based on that evil, terrible lie. Right? Nothing really matters. Nothing's really important. The thing is just to get along. There's no life, has no real meaning in it. That's how they could kill so many people with Stalin. These people. But it's false. It's false. the point is there has to be an elevation from below to above. A person starts with the aleph and he raises up. After that, then God actually reacts to what we do. And that's Dodi Li. That's the essence of what Judaism is. That if we elevate ourselves to the Creator, is the Creator then will give us more inspiration. We'll feel more how tremendously important we are in the eyes of God. I don't think there's anything more valuable than that. I was just thinking the other day how important it is. There's a thing in called bullying. I had a grandson. He passed away almost a year ago, and because due to bullying, it was very subtle and it wasn't official, but it was definitely, it was picked on in school. It was picked on. It was a little bit unusual. He was very smart, very intelligent, but he really, he sort of had social problems, but anyway, he was picked on. And because what does it mean? That if you just say something bad to somebody, it can destroy a person's life totally. It can destroy a person's life, right? You just tell somebody you're ugly. That's it. Even though the person is a nobody, meaningless person, you say you're ugly, especially if the whole class laughs, ha ha ha. Then one little word, right, of discouragement is terrible. One word of encouragement can save a person's life. But don't pay any attention to them. You're really smart, right? So the idea is that when we start to really believe and understand and feel that there's God, then God encourages us. Then God sends us, how do you say, the encouragement, the positive words, positive feelings. Positive encouragement. Okay. So that's what comes from above. Cave insists that these two things of I go to God and God comes to me. This is all included in ELUL, the word ELUL, that's the month of cheshbon, of making a calculation of accounting of ourselves. There's mistaber lomer. It's logical to say shebepratiot, that in detail these two things must be in the month of Elul for every Jew. We have to do both and take what's it called? Not accounting. There's a better word for it. That's the end of the year. All right, I'll think of the word. Anyway, we have to make an accounting of the whole year. How did I do with Ani Ladodi? Was I really devoted to the Creator? And Ladodi Li, how much accordingly did God give to me and how much I appreciated it? Right? Inventory. Oh, that's the word, inventory. Avoda milmata lamad. That's called service from below to above. How much I gave over to God. And also how much I appreciated what God is giving to me. Dodi Li. Avoda milamata lamayla. This is serving. This is the service of God from above to below. Even though generally speaking, I am to my beloved, this is what we do. And Dodi Li, this is what God does. But there's always that type of service of God, what God gives to us, because God wants that everything he does should be drawn down by means of our service. So we can say that by means of this, that when a Jew, there is something like Dodi Li, avoda b'derech milamayla lamata. In other words, we jump above our abilities. What is the service of God talking about? First type of service of God is we serve according to what we understand. Right? We understand what God is good, that God is good. So we have to do things for God because God is good and God creates us. So according to what we understand, that's what we do. We devote ourselves to God. And then afterwards, God gives us inspiration. God gives us inspiration from above. So we do things that we never thought we could do. We learn Torah in a way we never thought. We can pray the way we give good deeds. We give charity. We help others in ways we never thought we could do. So that's from above to below. So the Rebbe says the same thing is now. First of all, we have to serve God in a way according to what we understand. But also we have to jump above what we understand. That's what's making a vessel to draw down this big blessing of God so that we can genuinely serve God from above understanding. That's an arousal from above, from above all of our abilities, drawing down from God himself below. I was thinking about that the other day. God made the Jewish people the smallest of all nations. I imagine maybe there are some little tribes or something that are smaller than Jews, but Jews are, a nation. They're a religion. They're a folk, whatever you want to call them, and they're the smallest of all, right? I mean, how many Jews are there in the world? I think at the top, as far as I know, there's like 20 million Jews in the world, right? And everybody's going crazy about the Jews. The Jews did this, and the Israelis did this, and it's the Zionists that did this, and they did this, and they found different names. The Semites, anti-Semites, the Semites, and there's only 20 million of them. I mean, there's not that many. And why is it they're in the news all the time, and what they do, and what they say, and what they think, what they did, right? Right? And then the Hamas came in and they killed 1,200 people. And they took prisoners. Nobody cares, right? But if one Jew throws a rock at an Arab child, and the whole news and the whole world goes upside down. We want to take a break. The president of the United States is speaking. We have a news flash. A Jew threw a stone at an Arab child. Here's a picture of the child. The child is crying. It's a picture like from 15 years ago. It doesn't care. You can see it's rolling down his. You can see his mother has a ketchup thing she just put on his head. Doesn't make any difference, right? The Jew did to this. This is the end of the world. What's going on? Why? What's so important about the Jewish people? Why? Why is it so important? So the answer is very simple. The Jewish people, they represent God. They represent God. Right? God, they represent God is really big. God is creating everybody. God is much bigger than the 8.5 billion people that are in the world. And they know that every Jew, even whatever Jew that's not an affiliated Jew, he's a representative of God. Every Jew knows it, except for the Jews. The Jews, right? The Jews know it. They know it deep down, but they say, no, I'm not a representative of God. No, it's just a figure of speech. It doesn't really mean anything. It was just a way of saying it, that the anti-Semites made it up. It's not. It's written in the Torah. What are you talking about? Written in the Torah. He says that's the whole idea of Yesh Lomar. We can say that these two things in the month of Elul, I go to my beloved, and my beloved goes to me. That the essence of the Jewish people is this connection to God. This is hinted at in the first 2 days of Rosh Hashanah. The first 2 days of Elul. The Rosh Hashanah of Elul is always 2 days in the coming month. By us, it's going to be not next week, but the week after that, Sunday and Monday. By the Rebbe, it was Shabbos and Sunday. Kaven, since Shechodesh Menachem Av, since that the month of Av is always full, therefore the next month is going to be 2 days. Okay. The Lashon HaKatuv says, Baroshe Chadashim, Lashon Rabim, the heads of the months. Like it says in the Zohar, Veki Kama Roshe in the Sahira, how many heads are there to the moon? But his Roshe is 2 days of the month. Let me explain this a little bit, very, very shortly. In Judaism, the months can either be 29 days or 30 days. And it depends on the moon. On the moon. In astronomy, there's there's the end of the month. There's no moon, and then there's a new moon. What's the new moon? A little sliver. When that sliver appears, the sliver of the moon appears in the sky. That's the beginning of a new month. That's the beginning of the new month, right? From one month to another, in other words, from one sliver to the next sliver of the month, the next month, there's either 30 days or 29 days. There's never more and there's never less. That's the way astronomy goes. There's never more and there's never less. The moon is either, the month is either 30 days or it's 29 days. That's how long it is. If the month is 30 days long, then we make it's called 2 days of Rosh Chodesh. If it's 29 days, then we say, because the month can be 29 days. So if there's an extra month, so we say, well, that month, that extra day, the 30th day, we call it the beginning of the next month, even though it's technically not. It's the 30th day of the last month. So if the month is 30 days old, then we say that there's 2 days of Rosh Chodesh. So the month of is always full. It's always 30 days. So therefore, the 30th day is not called officially. It's not called of anymore. It's called the first day of Elul. Even though on the calendar it's listed the 30th day of. But technically, it's called the first day of Elul. So this is 2 days. Elul has 2 days to it. There are some months that they're only 29 days old, 29 days long month. Then that's the real month. That's 29 days. And then the next day, that's 1 day of the next month. That's how it goes. Okay, so it says the month of Elul is always 2 days. 2 days. The 30th of is the first day, and the first day of. Okay, so he says it's Shabbat and Yom Rishon. By us it's Sunday and Monday. By the Rebbe it was Shabbos and Sunday. Yom Rishon and Yom Shabbat, Sunday and Shabbat. This hints at 2 ways of time. Excuse me. Yom Rishon is the beginning of the days of the month from below to above. We're starting from the beginning. Shabbat is the blessing from above to below. Shabbat is the last day of the month. That's from above to below. So by us, how does it work this year? How does it work by us this year? By us, it works that Shabbat is going to be next week, not this coming, next Shabbat. Shabbat is going to be the month that we bless the month of Elul, and the next day, Sunday, is going to be Elul. So the blessing is going to come on Shabbat. Then the next day is going to be the beginning of Elul. It's going to be the 30th day of but it's going to be called the first day of Elul. So it was in the beginning of the creation. The first day is the first day of creation, and Shabbat, it was the last day of creation. The first day of creation, it began counting the days of the week from below to above. Yom Rishon, God created light. The second day, created a firmament. The third day, etc. Every day was an increase until it came to Yom Shishi, when God created the 6th day. God created man, and then came Shabbat, the end. Similarly, is also every week the first day begins. We start again the whole order of creation, the way it was when God created the world, and it continues until from below to above. From below to above is the beginning, number 1, number 2, right? Like a child, first grade, second grade. First day until Shabbat. And the Shabbat, that completes it. But in addition to this, there's also another way of doing things. There's also another way of ordering things, and that is from above to below. From above to below, even though the time is a creation, namely the creation time is created in the first instant that God created the world. Before that, there was no time. There was no such thing as before the world. Before the world, there was no before. It says it's in the book that before the creation, then it was Shabbat. Shabbat, that's what began. That's from above to below. Like it's known that even before the creation of time, there was already the plan of time. Seder Zmanim. In other words, God had a plan of what time would be. That's essentially the Sfirot of God, the 7 Sfirot, that's the 7 aspects of time. This is spoken about. There's a book which is called Sefer Yetzirah. It's a book of Kabbalah that was given to Abraham, and you can buy it in a bookstore. Right? And it says if you know how to use it, you can create a human being. Nobody knows how to use it properly, but you can create a human being. It says that Rabbah created a human being, and the Maharal of Prague created a human being. But nevertheless, time is a creation. And before time existed, there was the plan of time. And that idea of the plan of time in God's mind, in other words, this was called Shabbat. And this type of Shabbat, not the Shabbat which is within time, which that's the end of the days of the week. This is before the days of the week. This is before time of the 6 days of the week. This Shabbat, which is an essential Shabbat, this blesses all of the 6 days which come afterward. And it blesses all time. That's what's called an order of time from above to below. It's not that just God created the world. That's the mistake that everybody makes. That God created the world and it just took him that much time. That's how long it took, right? That's how long it took, right? I ordered somebody to paint my front yard and to do the whatever it is the bushes and the grass and everything like that. And he said he would do it in 1 hour, and it took him a week. Right? That's what happened with God. He wanted to do it faster, but it just schlepped on, and there was details, and it didn't. It's not so. That's not the way it went. Not the way it went. God purposely drew out the creation, unfolded reality from above to below. Reality in this case is Shabbat. That's pure godliness. And from the Shabbat, which is above time, came time. That's the order of time from above to below. From Shabbat, it was drawn into the 6 days of creation. That's something like Shabbat. That from it is blessed all of the other days of the week. We get a taste of that every week. Every week now we get a taste of it. On one hand, Shabbat is the last day of the week. On the other hand, the coming week is blessed by the previous Shabbat. Okay, Kashem, just like it is in time. Why are we talking this? Because Rosh Hashanah is when God created the world. More exactly, is when God finished the creation, is when God created man. That's Rosh Hashanah. That's the Jewish New Year, is when man was created. So that man, the world was created. That's when time was created. We can't understand what this means. I mean, there's no way of concept. What does it mean? What does it mean? No time. Cain also is a chiluk ben yom rishon b'Shabbat b'tochen avodas. That's why all these scientists, they say the world has to be 7 trillion years old. In other words, what are you talking about trillion years old? Are you nuts? The world is 7 quadrillion years old. I said, that's what I think I told you this joke before, but I'll tell it again. Professor Viktor Frankl, he tells it in one of his books. He says that a woman is sitting in an audience, and a speech has been being given by a great famous scientist. And the scientist says, according to science, the world is going to explode in another billion years. And the lady stands up from the crowd and screams, no, it can't be. Please say that it's not true. No, I can't believe it. No, I don't. Please save us. The professor said, ma'am, what are you getting all excited for? She said, what did you just say? What did you just say? She said, I said that the world is going to end in another billion years. She said, oh, I thought you said another million years. In other words, a million is closer to us, 1,000 times closer than a billion, right? But still, it's it's ridiculous saying, well, I'm worried about what's going to happen in a billion years. But a person can't think outside of time. We can't think outside of what time is, right? And here we're saying that time is just a creation and that God created it. But it's very important to God. Time is very, very important to God. That's why one of the 10 commandments is keeping Shabbat, right? Shabbat is given only to the Jewish people. Non-Jews are not supposed to keep a day of Shabbat. They're not even supposed to make up a day on their own. Shabbat is a pure, amazing, beautiful, holy, spiritual, godly gift. And that's what the Rebbe is saying. It's not just the 6th day, of the 7th day of the week. That Shabbat is true, the end of service, but it's also the beginning. It's the beginning of everything. Shabbat, the whole idea is on the first day of the week, this begins the service of weekday, mundane things. This is from what's simple to what's more complicated, like first grade, second grade. That begins on the first day, and then afterwards it goes up to a higher level, second day, and then afterwards, days after that, that's the completion of the. That's the day when man was created, on the 6th day, until finally it completes on Shabbat, which is not the case if we look at it. That's from below to above. It's not the case if we look at from above to below. Then this work of Shabbat is from above to below. Then l'chadchila, it begins with pure pleasure, pure completeness, completion, pure godliness. That's a different way of looking at it. Then the eating of meat and the drinking of wine and the sleeping, etc. This is a totally different. That's the source of all of the reality of the days that come after that. That's Shabbat from above to below. That's above to below. Says the Rebbe. That's the whole idea. When ELUL starts on Shabbat, or by us we can say when it starts the day after Shabbat, when it's blessed Hadei Shabbat. That's not going to be this Shabbat. It'll be next Shabbat. Was blessed with Shabbat. That's from above to below. That's giving us a taste of how the world was before God created it. Or in more simple language, a taste of God himself. Because the world, when the world was created by God, it didn't push God away. The world was created from nothing. The building block of the world is nothing. So basically, the world is nothing. The world is just this big, amazing miracle. Because really, it's nothing. I'm nothing. You're nothing. Everything is nothing. But it's nothing. How are we here if so we're nothing? Because the answer is because the world is a big miracle. God wants it to be here. So according to our standards, it's really zero. And according to God's standards, it's really one. The world is really important. As we'll talk about more, God willing, tomorrow.